Good morning. It is Monday, the 11th of May. I'm Maeve McMahon, and this is Europe Today, your daily date with European news and analysis, live here on Euronews. Coming up, EU foreign ministers gather in Brussels for talks on the ongoing war in the Middle East. Joined by Canada's Foreign Minister, Anita Anand, they'll be discussing the diplomatic deadlock between the US and Iran after President Trump slammed Iran's counter-proposals as, quote, totally unacceptable. And while the European Union celebrated Europe Day on Saturday, the Kremlin staged its annual Victory Day parade in Moscow. President Putin defended Russia's full-scale war in Ukraine. He criticised NATO and also hinted that the conflict could be nearing an end. We'll debunk his speech. And Hungary has a new Prime Minister. In an inauguration ceremony that took a rather lively turn, Péter Magyar was sworn in to lead the country for the next 4 years. Excitement levels were so high that the stage literally turned into a dance floor. And the World Health Organization says there's no cause for panic after a cruise ship linked to the hantavirus outbreak docked in Tenerife. Passengers must remain, though, in quarantine for 42 days. But foreign ministers are huddling, as I said, in Brussels today, just while Russia's Vladimir Putin has said he's ready to meet Ukraine's President Zelensky to discuss ending the full-scale war. For the latest, we can bring in now our Ukraine correspondent, Sasha Vakalina. Sasha, is there any evidence to back up this statement, what Putin said, that he's ready to end the war?
None whatsoever, in a nutshell, May, because he also continued saying that he believes victory has always been Russia's and will always be. So probably what Vladimir Putin meant when he addressed the parade on the 9th of May was the way he sees the ending of his full-scale invasion of Ukraine has not changed. He still wants Russia to win there, which is also interesting given the fact that he actually gave that speech expressing that confidence that victory will be for Russia at the parade, which had no heavy military equipment in a very scaled down format. And also the parade, the ceasefire upon which was only possible thanks to Donald Trump.
And tell me, was there anything new in this statement that he said apart from that?
There were a couple of aspects. And first of all, there was the fact that Putin actually said that he would be willing somehow to meet Volodymyr Zelensky. This is the first time that he actually says that. And there are a few interesting things about it. First of all, even the fact that he admitted that he would be willing to do so, because for years now, Putin has not been even recognizing Zelensky as president of Ukraine. So that's already a new thing there. And also he said that the meeting could possibly take place in a third country. And this is indeed crucial. Now, Putin said a meeting in a third country is also possible, but only once final agreements have been reached on a peace treaty for a long-term historic perspective to take part in this event and sign treaty, but it must be a final step. Now, one of the countries that I would like to mention right now would be Azerbaijan, because on the 25th of April, Volodymyr Zelensky visited Azerbaijan, and standing there next to President Aliyev, he actually said that he would be willing to meet with Putin in Azerbaijan. So there is this possibility there. And another thing is that Putin also said that he doesn't mind having a EU negotiator to help get closer to that moment. He did specify, though, that there could be any leader, according to him, who has not said any, quote, nasty things about Russia, unquote. And then he did float the idea of who could that be and who he wants to see as a negotiator. And here he knows very well that that candidate is a no-go both for Ukraine and for the European Union.
And Sasha Vakalina, that candidate you're mentioning, of course, is the former German Chancellor Gerhard Schröder. Putin has said that he could be the right mediator in the Russia-Ukraine peace talks. And we want to hear now how Germans have been reacting to this idea. So we can head straight over to Berlin and bring in our correspondent, Laura Fleischmann. Good morning, Laura. Can you just remind our viewers this morning who Gerhard Schröder is and why Vladimir Putin likes him so much?
Good morning to you too. And well, with Schröder, Putin brings one of the most prominent and also most controversial political figures in Germany into play. Schröder was the German chancellor, a social democrat chancellor from 1998 until 2005. And the relationship, the friendship between Putin and Schröder goes way back. They've been friends even before his chancellorship. And during his time in office, they went to the sauna oftentimes together. This really shows how close they were. They visited each other's birthday parties. And Schröder also called Putin a flawless democrat. Some, however, called Schröder one of the most important lobbyists of Putin and Russia here in Europe. But what is even more interesting is what happened after Schröder's time in office. He started working for multiple Russian state energy companies such as Gazprom, Nord Stream 2, and also for Rosneft, which is now on the EU sanctions list. And he kept on defending his friendship with Putin, stating that it might end the war between Russia and Ukraine, and that he even tried to mediate between both parties. In 2022, he went to Istanbul and Moscow on his own without consulting the German government. However, this mediation attempt ended up failing. So it does come to no surprise that Russia and Putin are now floating the idea of Schröder potentially mediating. And what is even more interesting is the timing of this proposal. Just recently, the EU Council President Antonio Costa stated that there might come a time when the EU and Russia will need to talk directly, to engage directly. However, he quickly added that now is not the time. So against this backdrop, it seems that Putin tries to influence the EU and tries to put pressure on in order to decide who is sitting at the table and when.
And Laura, what have the reactions been to this in Germany? Are people taking this seriously?
Well, the short answer is not really. The German government immediately rejected the proposal, stating that the offer is a sham. And furthermore, they added that it is part of the hybrid strategy of Russia trying to further divide the European Union. And there is already some division taking place here in Germany. The SPD, the party of Gerhard Schröder, stated that one should at least be open to the idea of him being a mediator. That is what the Speaker of Foreign Relations of the SPD stated. But in the past, the former party co-president of the SPD stated that Schröder is not really a statesman anymore and that he is more of a businessman pursuing his business interests. But what is even more important is whether Ukraine would even accept Schröder as a potential mediator, which is, of course, unlikely, since Ukraine will likely not see Schröder as a neutral who serves both sides. So to summarize, Berlin sees this more as a political act and less as a genuine peace initiative.
Okay, Laura Fleischmann, thank you so much for that live update there from the German capital. This is a topic, of course, that will be making an appearance at the EU Foreign Affairs Council meeting taking place today. For the view now from the Swedish government, I'm joined now on set by Sweden's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Maria Malmer Stenergaard. Great to have you back with us here on Europe Today. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
So you're hearing these reports this morning of Gerhard Schröder potentially mediating between Ukraine and Russia. Would you trust him?
Well, I want to begin in another end. I think the main problem is that Russia is not really interested in peace. They are trying different maneuvers, but we need to keep our focus where it needs to be, and that is on increasing the pressure on Russia and increasing the support for Ukraine. So there's a lot more to be done, and these are things that will be discussed today.
But yet Antonio Costa has been saying recently that it is perhaps time to talk to Russia. We're hearing names floated like Emmanuel Macron or Giorgia Meloni or Pedro Sanchez. Which person would you like to see?
I'm not there yet. I think that sooner or later we will have to talk to Moscow, but since Putin is not really interested in any serious peace talks, then I think we should, like I said, focus on changing the calculus to make him interested in that. And then we will have a discussion about how the forms...
So how do you change the calculus? That's the question.
Yes. So we need to increase the pressure on Russia. There is a lot more to be done on sanctions. I need to see the full service maritime ban, and that is something that should be in a 21st sanctions package. And then we need to increase the support for Ukraine. I'm very pleased that we agreed upon the 90 billion euro loan, but this cannot be an excuse to do less bilaterally. So we need to continue to support Ukraine bilaterally and then add those 90 billions. Then that will make Ukraine a lot stronger. And we see how Russia is getting weaker and weaker, having problems recruiting new soldiers. And look at the big victory day, that was a very small victory day with no display of military hardware because the Kremlin was afraid of Ukrainian drones.
And just bring us inside the council meeting today. How has the mood changed with the new government in Hungary and a new Hungarian foreign minister, Anita Orban? She won't be there today physically because she's having her hearing. But of course, will things change now when it comes to Ukraine?
Well, I think there are a lot of more smiles in the room nowadays, and better possibilities for Europe to be stronger and to act more swiftly, which is absolutely necessary, not only to help Ukraine, but also to make sure that the EU becomes a stronger Europolitical player, geopolitical player. And yes, I'm very hopeful that with the new Hungarian government, we will be able to make those decisions that are absolutely needed for Ukraine. But we'll see what happens in Bulgaria.
And on your plates, of course, today, the diplomatic deadlock between the US and Iran. It feels sometimes like the EU is just staring at the Strait of Hormuz with absolutely no say in the matter and just hoping the problem will go away.
Well, we are preparing for the next phase. So once we have a lasting ceasefire or a peace, then that is the time when Europe should bring assets and make sure that we keep the strait open, because that is so important for international trade and also for our growth. But we are not going to enter this war during these circumstances, but we are preparing, and that is very important because we want to contribute.
You want to contribute. And of course, you're opening a spy agency, I believe, in Sweden as a reaction to the full-scale war in Ukraine. Tell us about that. And do you have the voters on board, given this year you have big elections as well in Sweden?
We have big elections. There is going to be a vote this summer on the new agency. I am convinced that this is something that should have been done a long time ago. We are now members of NATO. We align ourselves much more with the services of other countries. We need to develop technology a lot more, become better at looking into open source intelligence, and all of that is on the plate of the new agency.
And on those elections taking place, Israel-Sweden relations will also play a big role. We know that Sweden did recognise the state of Palestine, but this decision could be reversed. Which camp are you in here?
No, I think that we should not reverse that. I mean, we made our decision, and people should be able to trust our decisions when it comes to foreign policy. So I don't see that there will be a change in that regard. However, I see the necessity to put more pressure on Israel because we are so worried about the development in Gaza. Not a lot focus there right now because there is so much going on in the rest of the world, but the situation is still horrible for people living there, and the situation on the West Bank is deteriorating. So we need to put more pressure on it.
And today you could sign off on sanctions on violent settlers in Israel.
I hope we will be able to do that, but we should also move forward with sanctions on extremist ministers in the Israeli government.
OK, Minister, a lot, of course, on your plates today at that foreign ministers meeting, as always. Thank you so much for coming in to us. But now, moving on, Brussels is still digesting the outcome of the local elections in the UK last week that saw the former Brexiteer Nigel Farage rise through the ranks. 10 years on since the Brexit referendum, the question now is what this result will mean for EU-UK ties and, of course, the political future of Labour's Keir Starmer. Our Jakob Janis takes a look.
To the victor go the spoils. Nigel Farage's pro-Brexit Reform UK party became the biggest winner of last week's English local elections, gaining over 1,400 council seats.
We have absolutely stormed it. These are historic results.
And as they were mostly gained from Labour, all attention turned to its leader.
And I take responsibility. When voters send a message like this, we must reflect and we must respond.
But is his time in number 10 already on the clock? Despite a massive Westminster majority, last Thursday's local election battering has left Starmer on notice. And ironically, this majority makes him easier to criticize. His own party members feel safe breaking ranks because the government is not at immediate risk of falling. And ousting a Labour leader is much harder than a Tory. According to the Labour Party rulebook, rivals need 81 MPs to go public, just to trigger a vote. And while the trade unions and party members stay quiet, Starmer holds a structural shield that makes him safer than the headlines suggest. And with Britain's economy hurt post-Brexit, Starmer is pursuing a high-stakes pivot. At a recent summit in Armenia, he opened talks to join the EU €90 billion loan for Ukraine. And it seems to be a cash-for-play strategy. The UK helps to pay the interest in exchange for British defence firms accessing EU contracts. Ultimately, Starmer's future depends on how the next election is framed. If the conversation stays on the economy and closer ties to the EU, he's more likely to stay in power because public sentiment on Brexit has soured. But if the framing shifts to migration, Nigel Farage and Reform UK hold the advantage. And for now, the English public is left to see whether his grand vision for the country can survive a stark reality of local politics.
Jakub Janis there on a story that's been closely watched here from Brussels. But now, just over 1 month or under 1 month after historic elections, Hungary's new Prime Minister, Péter Magyar, was sworn in on Saturday in Budapest, bringing an end to Viktor Orbán's 16 years in power. Tens of thousands of Hungarians gathered outside the iconic Parliament building in Budapest to celebrate the moment. For more now on what challenges face the new Prime Minister, I'm joined by our Hungarian correspondent, Sándor Zsiros. So we're looking at those pictures there that quite frankly resemble a festival or a big, huge party, but huge expectations now on Péter Magyar. Their voters are euphoric, but the question, will he be able to deliver? Tell us more about this moment.
Well, good morning. As you said, Péter Magyar made sure that everyone in Hungary during the weekend talks about his inauguration. They made a huge show, a huge festival out of these events. There was a children's choir playing in the chamber. Some deputies were crying. The minister was dancing. Péter Magyar made even the DJ. And then overnight there was a huge festival, a huge fiesta celebrating the end of the Orbán's government and the start of the new government. Now for the substance, Péter Magyar said that this is not a simple change of government, but a change of system, and he's opening a new era in the Hungarian history. He criticized Orbán for his corruption, and he warned for investigations against him. He also called for resignation of the Hungarian president, Tamás Súlyog, whom he called a puppet of Orbán, and he called for a new style of governance in Hungary. Let's take a listen of what he said.
Egy országot fel lehet emelni néhány bátor és tisztességes döntéssel.
A country can be lifted up by a few courageous and honest decisions, but it can also be destroyed by selfishness and arrogance. That is precisely what I would like to state clearly here, in the House of Hungarian Democracy and Constitutionalism, that I will not rule over Hungary. I will serve my country.
Szolgálni fogom a hazámat.
A very enthusiastic Péter Magyar there, the new Prime Minister of Hungary. But Sándor, what about Viktor Orbán? What is his legacy? He seems to have just disappeared from the political sphere.
Exactly, he seems a little bit disappearing, and I feel like he's not taking this electoral defeat very lightly. So, for example, on Saturday he was supposed to be in the parliament having his farewell speech and handing over the power in person to Péter Magyar, but he didn't show up. He's also not taking his parliamentary mandate, which is highly unusual and not traditional in many aspects. But Orbán vows to continue his fight. He wants to stay as a head of the Fidesz party. He wants to reorganize Fidesz party, but there are cracks already on his legacy, and what we call the Orbán system is already cracking. There are many investigations running already against his associate, for example, for corruption or misuse of power. Many of his associates are trying to change sides and trying to get connected to the new government. And what is really remarkable, Orbán's media machine is largely silenced. All of these pro-Orbánist voices in the Hungarian media are disappearing.
Okay, Sándor Zsiros, thank you so much for those insights. And we can read, of course, longer reads from Sándor Zsiros on the challenges now facing Péter Magyar. But that does bring this Monday's edition of Europe Today to an end. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do reach out to us, drop us a line, tell us what you thought, or if you've any questions or comments, europetoday@euronews.com. That is our email address. Take care. Thanks again for watching, and see you very soon here on Euronews.